Have you ever wondered what it would be like to sit with Jesus after everything that you've been through and just feel His goodness surround you? Today, I want to dive deep into a story that shows us just how good and faithful and full of love Jesus is, even in the middle of our deep grief, brokenness, and pain. I'm so excited to talk with you about this story because I know you'll find so much encouragement and hope in it. I pray this episode blesses you. Welcome to Unlocking Joy After Grief. My name's Courtney, wife, mama of 6 kiddos, one in heaven waiting for us, and that's why I'm here. In 2017, we lost our 4-year-old son, Sam, and it's my joy to share with you everything this journey has taught me. So if you're ready for biblical encouragement, first-hand lessons, and support from a fellow grieving mama, then let's lace up our shoes and begin walking this road together. So the story that I want to dive into today is the story of Peter when he denied Jesus 3 times. I'm sure everyone knows this story. I knew this story, but that's one of the things I love about the Bible is it's alive. And so you can read something so many times and get a fresh revelation on this story every time you read it. And so one time when I was reading this story, I saw something that I had never seen before, and it all anchors back to Jesus' goodness, His faithfulness, His redemption for Peter. So I want to start this story back before Jesus died, before Peter denied Him, to the moment where Jesus told Peter that He was going to deny Him. Matthew 26:33-35. Peter answered Him, "Though they all fall away because of you, I will never fall away." Jesus said to him, "Truly I tell you, this very night, before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times. Peter said to him, "Even if I must die with you, I will not deny you." And all the disciples said the same. So let me set the stage for you about this part of the story. It was a very, I'm sure, heavy moment for Jesus because Judas had already agreed to betray Him. He knew what was coming. Him and His disciples had just had the Last Supper, and then they went up to the Mount of Olives after they ate. And that is when Jesus told Peter this, "You're going to deny me 3 times. And Peter said, "If I have to die with you, I am not going to deny you." And I truly believe that Peter meant that. Like, I don't think he was just blowing smoke. I don't think he was just telling Jesus something that he wanted to hear. I really believe that Peter was speaking truth. Like, that was in his heart. He said, "I would never deny you. I love you. You are my Lord. If I have to die with you, then I will do it." And I really think that that was the truth. He really believed that. But sometimes we mess up. Sometimes situations come up and what we want to do, we don't do. Romans 7:18-20 says, "For I have the desire to do what is good, but I cannot carry it out. For I do not do the good I want to do, but the evil I do not want to do, this I keep on doing." So basically he's saying, I know what I want to do. I know what I need to do. I even want to do those things. But sometimes our flesh nature, our sin nature, is so strong in a particular moment that the thing that we do not want to do, we do it. And I believe that that is what happened with Peter. He did not want to deny Jesus. When he told Jesus that, he was telling the truth. But sometimes in situations, the thing that we don't want to do, we do. Okay, so Jesus told Peter he was going to deny Him 3 times. Peter said, "If I have to die with you, I will not deny you." Then Jesus left His disciples, went to the Garden of Gethsemane to pray and ask God if it's His will for this cup to pass. It says in verse 37 that Jesus began to be sorrowful and troubled. And He said to them, "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death," because He knew that heaviness that He was feeling. He knew what he was about to have to face. So it was a moment of deep sorrow for Jesus because of what was about to happen. So after he prayed, Judas came with the soldiers. They arrested Jesus. They took him before the high priest. So it was a very tense moment for Jesus, for the disciples. I'm sure there was a lot of uncertainty of what was going to happen. The emotions were high. And that is where we find Peter. So Jesus was in with the high priest, and Peter was outside sitting in the courtyard. So I'm going to start in verse 69 of Matthew 26. Now Peter was sitting out in the courtyard, and a servant girl came to him. You also were with Jesus of Galilee, she said. But he denied it before them all. I don't know what you're talking about, he said. Then he went out to the gateway, where another servant girl saw him, and said to the people there, This fellow was with Jesus of Nazareth. He denied it again with an oath. I don't know the man. After a little while, those standing there went up to Peter and said, Surely you are one of them. Your accent gives you away. Then he began to call down curses, and he swore to them, I don't know the man. Immediately, a rooster crowed. Then Peter remembered the word Jesus had spoken. Before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times. And he went outside and wept bitterly. I wonder what Peter felt in that moment when he heard that rooster crow and he knew that what Jesus said had happened, that he denied the one who he loved the most. The brokenness, the pain, the guilt, the shame, all of those emotions were probably running through his mind, his heart, so broken. After that, Jesus died, and can you imagine what Peter felt? The very last thing he did while Jesus was still alive on this earth was deny him. And he thought that was going to be something that he would have to carry the rest of his life. But Jesus had other plans. Now we're going to switch over to the Gospel of John, chapter 21, verses 15 to 17. So Jesus has died. They put him in the tomb. He resurrected. He's shown himself to the disciples a few times, but this particular one I wanted to hone in on. The disciples are out in the water. They fished all night long and caught nothing. So early that next morning, Jesus stood on the shore, but the disciples didn't realize it was Jesus. He called out to them, Friends, haven't you any fish? They said no. He said, Throw your net on the right side and you will find some. When they did that, they caught a lot of fish. And then John said to Peter, It is the Lord. So then they realized it was Jesus, and they put in all the fish in the boat, went to the shore, and Jesus told them to bring some of the fish that they had caught, and he was going to cook them breakfast. Okay, so this is where I want to pick up in the story, verse 15. When they had finished eating, Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these? Yes, Lord, he said, you know that I love you. Jesus said, Feed my lambs. Again, Jesus said, Simon, son of John, do you love me? He answered, Yes, Lord, you know that I love you. Jesus said, Take care of my sheep. The third time he said to him, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Peter was hurt because Jesus asked him the third time. Do you love me? He said. Lord, you know all these things. You know that I love you. Jesus said, Feed my sheep. So I want to stop right there. When I read this, it blew my mind what the Holy Spirit showed me. Jesus asked Peter if he loved him 3 times. How many times did Peter deny Jesus? 3 times. So Jesus, full of love, full of goodness, gave Peter a chance to redeem his past, to redeem the mistake that he made by denying Jesus 3 times. In his love, in his goodness, he asked him, Do you love me? 3 times. And 3 times Peter was able to say yes. Each one of those yeses canceling out the no that he said when he denied him. That same Jesus who came to Peter in the middle of his brokenness, in the middle of his regret, full of goodness, full of love, full of redemption, is the same Jesus that will meet you in the middle of your pain, in the middle of your brokenness. He comes with his arms open, his eyes full of love and grace and mercy and redemption. He didn't come to Peter with anger or trying to make him feel guilty for what he did. He didn't even bring it up. He didn't say, Peter, I told you you were going to deny me 3 times. And what did you do? You denied me 3 times. No, he didn't come bringing up what he had done wrong. Instead, he came with an opportunity for Peter to make it right. That was a moment of complete restoration for Peter. Jesus was saying, I see you, Peter. I know your heart, and I'm here to give you this chance of redemption. So let's talk a little bit about redemption. A lot of times we think of redemption as in this story with Peter. He messed up. He did something wrong. Jesus gave him a chance to make it right, gave him that redemption. But I want to come at Jesus' redemption from the lens of our grief, of our pain, of our brokenness. When we think about the power of Jesus' resurrection, when he went and defeated death, hell, and the grave, it is a reminder to us that nothing is beyond his ability to redeem. No matter how deep our pain is, how overwhelming our grief, Jesus can bring new life, hope, and new beginnings into your story. It doesn't mean that our grief disappears or that it suddenly becomes so much easier, because we know that's not possible. But it does mean that in the middle of our grief, Jesus is working. He's working to bring beauty out of ashes, to bring purpose out of pain. And he's bringing you the greatest gift that we could ever receive as grieving moms. Hope. Hope that we will see our child again. And that's the hope that keeps us going day after day. So if you're in a place right now where it's hard to see past that pain, and I know because I was there, I remember it. It's hard to even think that there's another side to the pain. I want you to be encouraged that Jesus is right there with you. He's not distant. He's not far off. He's close to the brokenhearted, just like I talked about in a previous episode. And he's continually offering you his redemption every day. It says his mercies are new every morning. Everything we need to get through this life without our child is found in him. And he gives it to us every day. A new dose of his love, a new dose of his goodness, a new dose of his strength. Whatever we need in that moment, he gives us a new dose of it every day. I know that sometimes it can be hard to see hope when the pain is so deep and the grief is so overwhelming. But sometimes his goodness and his kindness isn't in the big things. It can be the little, small moments that we see his goodness, his faithfulness, his love, and that hope. Just like I talked about in the episode about God being close to the brokenhearted, which I'll link in the show notes of this episode. It's the little things that show us his goodness, that heal our heart piece by piece. So I want to encourage you to look for those little ways that Jesus shows you that he's there for you in the middle of your brokenness and your grief and your pain. It could be through your time with him, which I have several episodes about your quiet time that I'll link in the show notes of this episode. It could be through that, through prayer, reading his word, worshiping him. It could be reminding yourself of all the times that he's been there for you in the past. Taking those moments to reflect on where you've seen him work in your life, because he's always there. His goodness is there. He's so faithful. And I'm so thankful that he doesn't leave us to figure out this messy life that we're having to live, but he is ready to get down in the mess and walk with us. I'll see you next week. Love you, friend. Hi, Mama. I hope this episode blessed you. If so, would you mind sharing it with a fellow grieving mama who may need some encouragement on her grief journey? Also, please take 30 seconds and leave a rating and a written review wherever you listen to this episode. Reading your reviews brings so much joy to my heart, and I love connecting with you in that way. All right, I'll see you here next Thursday for another episode. Love you, friend.